Coming up on this episode of Focus, PBS 39 teams up with the Weller Health Education Center to turn the spotlight on domestic abuse. Reports show 1 in every 4 women will experience domestic abuse in her lifetime. Focus reporter Brittany Garzillo introduces us to some of the youngest victims, and Grover Silcox explores a cycle of power and control that leads to physical, emotional, and sexual violence. Plus, we'll share the resources available right here in our region. Don't go anywhere. A new episode of Focus starts right now. Focus showcases the people, places, and issues that matter to you.
Everybody has a story.
These are the stories that uplift and inspire right here in your neighborhood.
Focus on what matters. You never know what you're going to see when you tune into Focus.
Support for Focus is provided by
the people of Air Products feel privileged to bring this programming to you. By supporting education and the arts, Air Products strives to improve the quality of life here in the Lehigh Valley, where we call home.
You're safe at home at Luther Crest, a Diacon senior living community in Allentown. Our mission is to offer premier accommodations and services so residents can cultivate a healthy and fulfilling retirement. At Luther Crest, we offer independent living apartments and cottages, personal care, skilled nursing, rehabilitative services, and more. Plus, the Luther Crest team strives to provide each person family-like support. You might say it's like a home run. Luther Crest.
News doesn't stop. We cover it 24/7, 365, because that's what our readers demand from us. You need to know what's going on, who's playing by the rules, or who's breaking them, who's winning and who's losing. The full range of the human experience plays out every day in the pages of our newspaper and website. The platform you choose to engage with us is your business. Delivering the news is ours.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Laura McHugh. In this episode of Focus, we'll share information that every parent of a teenager needs to see. This is the second in a 6-part series with the Weller Health Education Center, and its focus is domestic abuse. On average, 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the United States, according to a report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Over the course of 1 year, that adds up to more than 12 million men and women. The CDC also reports that almost 9% of high school students report they have been hit, slapped, or physically hurt on purpose by a boyfriend or girlfriend in the last year. For more on that topic, Focus reporter Brittany Garzillo joins us in the studio. Brittany.
Did you know that 1 in 4 U.S. women will be a victim of domestic abuse at some point in their lifetime? You may be even more surprised to learn that among youths, that number is 1 in 3. According to a recent study by the American Psychological Association, 1 in 3 youths between the ages of 14 to 20 say they've been victims of dating violence, and almost 1 in 3 acknowledge they've committed violence towards a date. Sources say it's a problem becoming all too common, and with a third of those victims speaking out about the abuse, many voices remain unheard.
I felt like I was just a piece of trash thrown out on the side. My life felt over.
The pain of her high school relationship still haunts 21-year-old Megan Postaver.
It was about a week before I left. I sat there and I just cried my eyes out. I'm bawling because I felt like, I'm like, God, I don't want to live anymore. I just kept begging just for him to take me. But I just remember sitting there and I felt his presence after a while. And I'm like, God, I know I have a life. I know I have a future. I can do this. I can get out of this. This is not me.
It was in her senior year of high school that Megan, an outgoing, friendly theater buff, met her 19-year-old boyfriend. Shortly after high school, Megan decided to move in with him, despite her mother's wishes.
I thought it was going to be like this little fairy tale. She called my bluff. She's like, you know what, fine. You want to leave? Pack up and go. Biggest mistake I've ever made.
But her fairy tale full of adolescent dreams doesn't end happily ever after. Her boyfriend became abusive.
Sometimes I have to repeat myself. Just get through your thick skull.
If I tried to run away or try to get out of the room, he would hold me in one spot and he would like squeeze my arms really tight and just stare at me like he was just about to come across me. And I went from working out and being active to sitting and crying and sleeping all day and eating all day. So I gained a lot of weight. And then he just started treating me worse and worse and worse.
Megan carried the weight of her boyfriend's abuse both mentally and physically. She gained over 50 pounds and distanced herself from friends and family.
Girls that are in unhealthy relationships are most at risk at the ages from 16 to 24. And for that age group, most of the intimate partner violence has actually started around age 12.
So the World Health Organization just in the summer issued a report saying that they're now considering intimate partner abuse a global epidemic.
According to the American Psychological Association, 1 out of 3 youths experience some type of relationship abuse. Forms of dating abuse include physical, emotional, verbal, sexual, and digital abuse.
56% of teens and young adults experience digital and social media abuse. It's the constant text messages. Where are you? Who are you with? Why aren't you answering me?
According to Lorna, there are several red flags that suggest you may be in an abusive relationship. They include excessive jealousy and possessiveness, disrespecting of boundaries, isolation from family and friends, controlling behaviors like telling you what to wear, and excessive text messaging day and night.
We know that the biggest factor in someone who's a victim of gender violence transitioning to a survivor is that initial belief and support. So if your child comes to you and tells you this, the most important thing you can do is say to them, I believe you, it's not your fault, and I'm here for you.
Some warning signs that your child may be in an abusive relationship include changes in behavior, changes in eating habits, decline in grades, headaches or stomach aches, change in social life or always being with the partner, and making excuses for partner's bad behavior.
You're in those very formative relationship years, and so you are now learning these behaviors that will set the tone for your relationships for the future.
Domestic violence and teen dating violence is all underreported. And even though we as a society have gotten a lot better about talking about it, and there is a lot more education and awareness around it, we still have a long way to go.
My best advice is, take care of yourself.
Today, Megan's lost over 50 pounds and contributes her success to local gym Retro Fitness. Her new goal is to commit mind, body, and soul to a healthy and happy lifestyle, one she hopes for all young people her age. For Focus, I'm Brittany Garzillo reporting.
Thanks, Brittany. Many experts suggest we can stop dating violence before it starts by talking about healthy relationships with teens and preteens. That's why in our audience today, we welcome the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders from Holy Infancy School in Bethlehem. It's also why Joe Webster joins me from the Weller Health Education Center. Joe's not only my husband, he's the Weller Center's Director of Education. Joe, how does the Weller Center work to prevent domestic abuse?
So one of the programs that we've developed is called Relationship Respect, and over the last 3 years, we've been going into many of the Lehigh Valley schools, and specifically the Bethlehem Area School District, where we've been there for 3 years teaching that program, Relationship Respect. And the object of that program is to teach kids what a healthy and an unhealthy relationship looks like.
And so we actually want to get our studio audience involved and understand their attitudes and perceptions about healthy and unhealthy relationships. So everybody in the studio audience has a clicker, and we're actually going to be using their results as part of the show right now. We have a series of 5 questions, so let's go ahead and get started with the first one.
Okay, great. So the first question we want to ask our students is, do you feel that middle school students are mature enough to be involved in an intimate relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend? So if the audience would push their buttons now, 1 for yes, 2 for no.
And I see that those responses are beginning to come in. This might be one of those times where parents may have one answer and students may have another. So let's see what they had to say.
Okay, so it looks like we are split, our audience split right down the middle,
Wow.
50-50, where some of our students feel like they are mature enough, where the other ones feel like they're not. What we see at the Weller Center, and I don't want to get too much science on you, but with the front of the brain, that's the part of the brain that's actually in charge of the decision-making process.
And judgment.
And judgment, right. And that part of the brain is fully not developed until people are in their early 20s. So when teens are making these decisions, they're not always making the decision with the right part of their brain. They're actually using the limbic system, which is in charge of their emotions. So when a student is in an emotionally charged situation, many times they're using that part of the brain rather than the decision part making of the brain.
Right, so they're acting on impulse and emotion.
Right, and they're not thinking about the consequences of their actions.
It's very interesting. I know we have another question that deals with where kids learn their behaviors.
Yeah, so the next question we want to ask them is, who taught you how to handle tough situations such as conflict in a relationship?
So what are their options?
They can either their parents or family, their school or teachers, their friends, or no one has actually taught them. So we'll see what they think with their answers here. And it looks like majority of them, over 50%, say their parents and family, which is really good.
They're very lucky.
But the scarier statistic there is that 41% says no one.
No one.
And so what we always try to teach to our students, and especially when we talk to parents, is it is very important to talk to your kids early. So anytime a conflict comes up within a relationship with their children, even if it's with two best friends, they need to work through that conflict and teach their children the tools so that they can have a healthier relationship, because as they get older, they can use those same tools in their intimate relationships.
That's great. And I know our next 3 questions deal with very specific examples that hopefully none of the people in our audience ever find themselves in, but we want to see how they might respond if they were.
Yeah, so the next question we want to ask is it okay for a boyfriend to call his girlfriend names like ugly or stupid if he says he's only joking around?
So you can agree, disagree, or strongly disagree.
So it'll be interesting to see what our middle school students
think. Yeah, we're really talking
on
about name calling and teasing here.
Right. So we have a large majority all say that they either strongly disagree or disagree, and that's a really good result. But we do see, unfortunately, that many teens think that it is okay to tease each other in a joking manner. And that's actually one of the red flags for a beginning of an abusive relationship, is the teasing.
Right, when they do those reports and they look back years later at a relationship that became abusive, they often find that it started with that kind of verbal abuse.
Right, and just because one person thinks it's teasing doesn't mean the other person thinks it's teasing as well, and it can really hurt.
Okay, let's look at our next question, Joe.
All right, the next question is, a girl should ask her boyfriend first before going out with her friends.
And so this is really starting to get into that emotional abuse category, right?
Exactly, yeah. So we'll see what they think here. So it is really varied across the board, yeah. But we could see that a lot of them disagree, but there are some of our teens that actually agree with this. That's also another scary statistic that we try to work with our students, because this shows control. When a boyfriend or a girlfriend, either way in a relationship, is trying to control the other person, that's a red flag, because that's often one of the first signs of an abusive relationship, when they're trying to isolate their partner from their friends and family.
And Joe, our final question really has to do with gender roles.
It really does. So we want to ask the students if they believe it is okay for a girl to slap a guy if he deserves it.
So we're flipping the tables a little bit on this one.
Right. We're going to ask something more about abuse towards males.
That's right.
So our students believe that there are a large majority, somewhere in the 30s, believe that it is okay for a female to slap a male if he deserves it. And that's something we're also trying to break the trend, because there's gender roles associated, whereas the males are stronger and they're not physically being hurt.
Right, it doesn't physically hurt them.
It may not physically hurt, so it's not abuse. And the fact is that any time somebody's putting their hands on somebody, whether it's male or female, it can be considered domestic abuse.
And in fact, statistics tell us that 85% of victims of domestic abuse are women. That means that at a minimum, 15% of those are men.
Right, and many of those cases actually go unreported because, again, that stereotype or that stigma that men are tough enough and they can take it.
Joe, thank you so much for organizing this for us, and thank you very much to our studio audience for participating and letting us get a peek inside what you think as middle school students. In 2012, 141 people in Pennsylvania lost their lives to domestic abuse, according to the State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. 8 of those fatalities occurred in Lehigh and Northampton counties alone. Across the state, reports show they range from a music teacher shot while she played the organ at church to a 20-year-old woman beaten with a shovel and buried alive. Every victim has his or her own story. Focus reporter Grover Silcox tells us more. Grover?
Thanks, Laura. The hallmarks of domestic abuse may be similar in every case, but every case is as individual as the person enduring it. Victims speak out about looking over their shoulders in fear of the abuser, about when to reach out for help, about children torn between parents in an abusive relationship. I spoke with a woman who helps abused women and a woman who simply wanted to share her story to help others.
Lisa Drew escaped from the dark and terrifying shadows of an abusive relationship.
That's what the abuser wants, to isolate you. But there's a way out. I did it.
Lisa married a man who verbally and physically abused her for most of their 16 years together.
He gave me 2 black eyes. He gave me bruises.
He psychologically tormented her even though he knew she suffered from depression.
It really did become a game to him. It was like you saw a completely different person happen. It was just so much angst and frustration and anger.
Diane Zanetti, Executive Director of Turning Point of the Lehigh Valley, an organization which provides free support services and refuge for victims of domestic violence, points to the common denominators of this kind of abuse.
It's not an isolated incident. It's an intimate partner, which is why we sometimes use the word intimate partner violence instead of domestic violence. And it's always about the power and control.
Lisa told her husband it was quits after learning he was having an extramarital affair. It was the final straw.
He said, well, if you're home when I get home, I'm going to crack your effing head open.
He scared Lisa and their 2 children. Lisa got a PFA, protection from abuse order, to keep him away from her and the children. He repeatedly violated it, went to court, went to jail, over and over.
I have a barrage of texts from then till now, and there is nothing changed about him. I ended all contact.
Lisa gives credit to family, friends, the courts, the Emmaus Police Department, and Turning Point for helping her through the abuse.
There's been a community of love and support there for me, and I'm very grateful.
Lisa's not alone. 1 in 4 women will suffer from some form of domestic violence in their lifetime.
What you don't always read about are the less physically obvious forms of abuse, the economic, the emotional, the verbal.
Guys and I are going to be home at 6 o'clock. We want 2 pizzas.
May I have another $10 for gas?
Why? Should go hang out with the girls and have a nice lunch? No. Make that work.
How am I going to get to the store and back?
Emotional abuse is demonstrated in this next Turning Point video.
What's for dinner anyway? Macaroni again?
I just got home 20 minutes ago. I had to pick up Jimmy from soccer and get you dry.
Are you kidding me? You had 20 minutes of mac and cheese, the best you can do?
There is this undercurrent of fear all the time, that intimidation that gets exerted in sometimes very subtle ways, but no less powerful.
What are you doing? You're always on the phone. Make yourself useful. Get off the phone. Your friends and family are losers anyway.
Mom, I gotta go.
I feel so alone.
Turning Point helps women create a safety plan.
Do you have a place to go? Do you have your paperwork available that if you needed to leave, any medication? How will you recognize when the escalation is building to the point of physical danger? What are your options?
Turning Point offers a safe house for 26 women and children who can stay there for 30 days. They provide counseling, legal advocacy, and just someone who will listen. As for Lisa, today she's a registered nutritionist and wellness coach dedicated to serving others, which includes reaching out, even on her blog, to those who need help escaping the lonely and terrifying shadows of domestic violence. For Focus, I'm Grover Silcox reporting.
Thank you, Grover. In 2005, Robin Schaefer lost her life to domestic abuse. Since then, our next guest, her sister, Heidi Markow, has dedicated her life to helping survivors and the loved ones victims leave behind through the Beginning Over Foundation. She's joined by one of her board members, Daisy Nastasi, who also lost her sister to domestic violence. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
For somebody who's never heard of it before, explain to us what the Beginning Over Foundation does.
The Beginning Over Foundation does a lot of different things. Basically, we are here to unify, connect, support, inspire, empower, and just give the support that is needed, so desperately needed, to families of domestic violence and domestic homicide.
And so much of what you do is really about helping rebuild lives after an incident or after somebody's removed from a domestic violence situation.
Yeah. That is the most important element of what we do, because you have a lot of women that do not completely heal after they leave an abusive relationship. So what happens is, if you do not give them the resources and the proper tools, most likely they re-enter into another abusive relationship. So my philosophy is, we need to first be well in our mind before we can begin to do anything really and be successful in life. So there's a lot of rebuilding and a lot of work that needs to be put into bringing somebody back to who they were meant to be.
Would you mind telling us about one of your newest programs? I believe it's called the Survivor Pal Project.
Yes. The Survivor Pal Project was an idea that I came up with just by meeting with Daisy and other families who have lost a loved one, or someone who is a survivor of domestic violence. We have found that it's so hard to connect with other people that don't kind of understand what you've been through, especially survivors of homicide. So we have just figured out that, wow, this could be amazing if we could connect all the survivors across the country to other survivors that share similar circumstances, similar stories, that we could connect them through email, through Skype, through Facebook, through telephone conversations, and then eventually all come together for a convention, a retreat, and where we can all meet and just share together and work on healing together.
Daisy, what do you see as the benefits of that?
I think it's a wonderful project because when someone, goes through such a horrible act like domestic violence, losing your loved one, you tend to feel alone. You think that you're the only one out there who's been through this. And the Survivor Pal project, lets you know that you're not alone and you can find someone with that same circumstance or similar. So talking to someone else about it is just good for healing.
And I know there's another new program called Learn the Basics that you've recently launched as well.
Yes, Learn the Basics program is just a big program that came about by just talking to students, talking to young girls and young boys, and much like our sex education in our schools today, you separate the male from the female. And I have 3 young boys, and just talking to their friends and just the members of the foundation and our youth group, we came up with this idea. Wow, because domestic violence is so different and teen dating violence is so different to both female and male, and what their beliefs and thoughts are about that, I designed this program with the help of the board and young men and between the ages of 10 and 18, because if you're teaching a program about teen dating abuse, it's very hard to get them to talk about it with the mixed gender together. So what we have done is we have specifically identified the most important elements of teen dating abuse that is more common in the boys. So this has been a really successful program with the help of Verizon. They have supported us. And we go into the schools, we go into the gym classes, into the health education. We teach the Boy Scouts, just little groups sometimes and sometimes large groups. But it's important to know that with this program, if there is a girl being taught teen dating violence, and her boyfriend is in that room, we have found that most often she's not going to talk. He's not going to talk. So we separate them, and we talk about equality in relationships. We talk about teen dating abuse. We have a lot of information that we give them. At the end of the program, they get a bracelet. It says, "I learned the basics." And each program comes with a participant's guide. And there's also an educational component to it. So if a teacher wanted to teach it in her class, she would get the educational handout and also a PowerPoint presentation. So it's a very, it's just a great program for boys.
And October being Domestic Abuse Awareness Month, I know you have a lot of different events planned and coming up.
Yeah, on October 19th, we have a wine and chocolate event at the spa at Westgate. From 7 to 10 p.m. And then Daisy is organizing another event.
On October 20th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Town and Country Lanes over on Stefco Boulevard in Bethlehem. We're having bowling for $10 a ticket. That includes the 2 hours of bowling and the shoe rental.
Yeah. And those funds go to
They go to the beginning of our foundation. The bowling is going into our Kimberly Gottschall Scholarship Fund, which provides a scholarship to a graduating senior going into the field that will serve victims of domestic violence. And then the chocolate and wine event is going just into to help support women who are leaving an abusive relationship. And then we also have our 31 Days of Purple, which is the entire month of October, where businesses and individuals can donate to the cause by, say, wearing purple to work one day. And all the information is on our website, all the registration forms and everything that you need, the flyers, everything is on our website.
Heidi, Daisy, thank you so much for being here today from the Beginning Over Foundation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
For more information about the Beginning Over Foundation and the other organizations featured in this show, visit us online at wlvt.org/focus. Whenever we cover a serious issue like this, we always owe a debt of thanks to those people who are so brave and so selfless to share their personal stories. And I know that everybody on all three of us had interviews with people who really shared personal stories with us today.
Right, and I also hope that it inspires other women who maybe are looking at warning signs and saying that they relate to them, or if they are in this situation, to really speak out about it.
And I know that overall domestic abuse is one of the most underreported crimes in the United States, so certainly anything that we can do to help, and those resources will be available on our website.
And it always seems that the women who have endured these terrible situations are the very ones who reach out and try to help others who are facing similar situations.
And it's with such bravery and such ways that they often do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much for both of your reports today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, from all of us, thank you so much for joining us for this special report, and remember to focus on what matters.
Support for Focus is provided by
The people of Air Products feel privileged to bring this programming to you. By supporting education and the arts, Air Products strives to improve the quality of life here in the Lehigh Valley, where we call home.
In 1948, John Walson put an antenna on top of a mountain and ran a cable back to his television store. Cable TV was born. Now, over 60 years later, his vision has changed the way we get our information, from super high-speed internet to stunning high-definition television.
Service Electric is committed to leading the way in the community with the best coverage of local high school, college, and professional sports, and groundbreaking